Thank you, Jude.
You betcha. Anything for you, my friend.
Um, I gotta.
Check 1 2 3. Check, check. Check 1 2 3. Check, check. Check 1 2 3. We are live. Check, check. Check 1 2 3. We are live, live, live. Check, check. Mic number 1, check. Mic number 2, check. Podium mic, check. 1 2. Podium.
Yeah, okay, better not. Well, John looks so happy in there, doesn't he? See John's picture? Looks great. There's you drinking. Oh. Hi, John, you there?
Yes.
Ah, you killing me. Thanks, Mark.
Don't be saying that.
Thanks, Mark. Oh, I'm getting old. It's killing me.
Keep you around for the We appreciate it.
So am I gonna see the weather report tomorrow?
You'll see it on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Oh, they're not here.
Sarah coming to do it? You doing?
Yeah, Sarah.
Well, we'll play Thursday too, huh?
Yeah.
I'm tired.
It's off. Okay. I turned it off. That's why I have it in the end. Get myself together.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, for roll call this evening, we have Jay Grover, trustee with us, Nicole Novak, trustee, Jude Kuhn, district clerk, Dr. Brian Graham, superintendent, Ashley Hoyer, president, Sue Marston, vice president, Joy LaMarca, welcome back, trustee, and remotely we have Glenn Bobek, trustee, and is Glenn with us?
Yeah.
I don't,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he is, okay, and Robin McCreary, trustee. All right, so a couple of announcements. If you could silence your cell phones, that would be appreciated. And there's emergency exits directly behind me and directly in front of me in case you have to leave unexpected. If I could have an approval for the agenda for March 22nd, 2021, please. And a second?
I'll get second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0. And if I could have an approval of the minutes from March 8th, 2021, please.
I'll motion.
I will motion.
Okay, and Glenn, is that a second, Glenn?
Yes.
Motion, Glenn second, all in favor? Aye. Any objections? Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0. We did not have anyone sign up for the public comment session for agenda items only, so moving on to personnel instructional. If I could have a motion to approve PI1 and PI2, please. And a second? All in favor? Aye. Any objections? Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0. And
Ashley,
moving on to, oh, you have introductions?
we might have some introductions. Cheryl Cardone, are you with us tonight?
I did not see her.
She's on it.
I did not see her.
Just
Okay.
checking again for Cheryl Cardone.
She's on, she's talking, but we can't hear her.
Oh, unmute Cheryl.
Thank you, Glenn.
She is unmuted, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, her sound's not working.
Gotcha. Well, then we will try something different, okay? Maybe if, Cheryl, if you can hear me, I'm not sure, but maybe we'll have your counselors introduce themselves to the board, as we're very excited to add them to, for the rest of the year, to support students with counseling needs. Alyssa, are you with us tonight?
I am.
I am
Oh,
on
and
it.
there's Cheryl.
Devices.
Cheryl, can you introduce Alyssa for us?
I can. I just switched devices. So I would like to welcome Alyssa Sino. Alyssa Sino comes to us most recently. She was at Newport acting as a social worker. This position for her ended in February. She will excitingly be starting with us tomorrow at split between Hughes and Kegabyne. I will say that I checked Alyssa's references, and I just want to quote one of her references. They said that one of the people said that she was the best intern that she's ever worked with in the last 20 years. So that was quite a wonderful reference regarding Alyssa. And Alyssa is also a Grand Island graduate with her twin sister. They both graduated a few years ago. So Alyssa, welcome. I know you're starting tomorrow at Youth in Kegabyne, and we are really, really excited to have you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and I'm excited to have this opportunity. It's wonderful, especially being a Grand Island alumni, to be able to give back and work for the same district that I was able to learn in. So thank you all.
Congratulations.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
And Cheryl, do we have anybody else tonight?
We do. We have a second person that's with us tonight, Jennifer. And I did see that Jennifer was on too, Jennifer Patterson. Jennifer is coming to us. She most recently worked at Starpoint. She does end that position this week. So Jennifer will be starting with us next Monday, March 29th at the high school. And I wanted to quote that all of the references that I checked with said that Jennifer goes above and beyond her scope of duties, and that we are a lucky school district to have her. So again, wonderful references and recommendation is such. And Jennifer, if you could just say hi to everybody. And again, Jennifer will be starting with us next Monday at the high school.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for such a lovely. I'm really excited to be starting at Grand Island. I'm just down the road in Wheatfield, and I have a lot of exposure to Grand Island, and I'm really excited to get started. And thank you again.
And we're excited to have you both, Jennifer and Alyssa. So can't wait for you to start.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome to Grand Island. We are excited. So we are moving on to non-instructional then. If I could have a motion to approve personnel non-instructional PNI 1, please. And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0. And that brings us to special education with Cheryl Cardone.
Thank you again. I have program recommendations, please, for CSE and CPSE. So if I could have action on those, I would appreciate it.
Motion for items A and B, please.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0. And
Thank you.
You're welcome. That brings us to finance with Dr. Harris.
Hi. Okay. So a communicable disease plan for continuation of operations has to be approved and pushed out by April 1st. The district has worked with all union leadership, as well as pushing this plan out to our administrative groups to make sure we're really encompassing everything that has happened and what we foresee happening. So I am asking the board to approve the plan so we are able to make it publicly known as well as upload to the state. The only other thing I would like to add is the fact that we know there are some things that are forthcoming that could change the components of this plan. Once we know more information, it is probable that we will sit down again to discuss the plan and then have a new plan and put before the board. But as of today, this is what we know and how we handle. So that's what I'm asking for approval on.
Okay, if I can have a motion to approve finance A. And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
objections? Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0. We did not have anyone sign up for the public comment session, general items not included in the agenda. So that brings us to our work session where we will hear from our elementary principals regarding our progress with the strategic plan. So that would be how we're doing with regards to the strategic plan we adopted a couple of years ago.
Right. So I'm really grateful to Mrs. Dunbar and Mrs. Palachi and Mr. Pikula, who have put together a short presentation. For our elementary principals, will you be able to share your screen from where you are, or would you like me to share?
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. So could you just let me know when you see it, please?
Will do.
Thank you. Are you able to see it?
Not quite yet.
We can see you, Felicia.
We like your house with the whiteboard in the background.
Yes.
In the basement. Second.
I'd be happy to share my screen if that helps you.
I think I got it now.
Yep, there
There
it
you
is.
go.
Alrighty. Good evening, everyone. So Denise, Max, and I put together a brief presentation for you on the updates of the strategic plan. We started by just reviewing some of the goals that we have for the strategic plan. So we are continuing to review and revise curriculum maps for both ELA and math, which is ongoing. We're reviewing and revising the benchmark assessments as appropriate. We're addressing our curriculum inconsistencies between the buildings. We're continuing to make improvements to programs that support student learning and achievement. And we are doing training on new instructional strategies in the area of math to support data-driven instruction. So for Kegabyne and Youth, we've been working with Kim Ludit to create math assessments that are going to drive our instruction.
Mrs. Blanchi, can you just talk just a little bit about Mrs. Ludit, where she's from and how she helps us?
Yeah, so Mrs. Ludit is from Erie One BOCES, and she has been meeting with both Youth and Kegabyne teachers, and she's working with them to create common formative assessments. So she's met with fourth grade now and third grade, and then I believe she's meeting with fifth grade next week.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we wanted to talk a little bit about iReady that we have at Kegabyne Youth and Sidway this year. So iReady is replacing STAR, and the teachers are finding it to be valuable. However, it does take a little bit longer than STAR, and so that has made it a little more challenging with our virtual students. We have been doing training with BOCES and iReady staff, and this is to administer, analyze, and implement the universal screening and appropriate interventions. So we were able to administer 2 of the universal screenings, but we had to cut one short due to the closure that we had, or the shutdown, and we will be administering our 3rd in the late spring. And then on Wednesday, we actually have our training with BOCES and iReady so that we can analyze the winter universal screening and determine action plans based on the data that we find from these screenings. And then we're having data team meetings with our RTI specialists to review the data and determine intervention groups. So we've been meeting with our RTI specialists during IST, during our student data-driven days, and our RTI leadership team to develop common practices among the 3 schools to analyze this data.
So I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing with science. We are in our 2nd full year of the adoption of Mystery Science, and it's basically designed for K through 5, although 4th grade has not yet begun it just due to the Science New York State assessments. They're staying with the BOCES kits that we have used in the past, but the goal is for them to begin looking at Mystery Science next year. The teachers absolutely love it. Through the 3 buildings, it's unanimous that they all want to continue with it. And some of the benefits and some of the positives that the teachers are seeing is that it's very engaging for students. It's got a very strong literacy component to it. And through this unprecedented time that we're in right now, they have found that it is easy also for the parents to access at home. The experiments and the activities that are designed within the program are easy for parents to be able to do with the children at home. They're fun, they're engaging, and they're topics that increase in complexity in time. For example, plants and animals. We start at the kindergarten unit, or at the kindergarten level is a very basic introduction to plants and animals and seeds and things of that nature. And it goes on up through the 4th grade level, increasing in the complexity of what it is they're teaching about plants and animals. So at the kindergarten and 1st grade level, there are 3 official units per year. And Jill Morris has been great in, before Karen Cuddy Miller left, helping the grade levels put kits together in which everything that that teacher needs to teach that unit is in a kit that is, all self-contained, and we can continue to supplement with easy things that can be found in the grocery store, dollar store, what have you, to keep those kits fresh. At the 2 through 5 level, there are 4 official units a year. And then what's nice about the Mystery Science as well is that there are a lot of mini lessons that they'll push out in an email for teachers to access that are very thematic, very seasonal, and very much support the basic units that are at each grade level. And then you can go to the next one, Felicia. And then as far as ELA, as you know, we have been rolling out the Lucy Calkins units of study for a good 3 years now. And we've had a gradual implementation of the units of study. At the kindergarten through 2nd grade level, every teacher has been trained in reading, phonics, and writing. Every teacher is fully implementing all of the units of study in their classrooms as the basis for their ELA. And it is very exciting. I know some of you who have come through to do your informal walkthroughs have seen the children in writing or reading workshop, and kids are very excited to read and write. At grade 3, all the teachers have been trained in writing and in phonics, and some have been trained in reading. They're all using the writing and the phonics, and some who have had that reading training are implementing that. And at 4, 5, and 6, they've all been trained in the writing, and a few at each grade level in the reading. Obviously, the phonics becomes less of a crucial unit. It's more about word work and word study as the children get older. So that has not really been introduced yet, but they are all using writing workshop, and some are dabbling in the reading workshop. So it has been a very positive addition, I think, to the Grand Island School District at the elementary level. We are seeing very active readers and writers. It's pretty exciting. Max, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So where do we go from here? We've had a lot of discussions with the faculty already about, what standards are the students stronger in, what standards are the students weaker in, and what do we need to address come September? And what can we do this school year to make September, an easier transition for both the students, of course, and the faculty? So one of the things that I know that's been brought up to that's been brought up to the budget was the summer school program. We're hoping that the budget will support this program. We think it's a good thing for our students and a great idea to prepare our students for this next coming school year. We've already started this discussion about what we need to do to prepare for this summer school program with our teachers, and meeting, like, what do we need to make sure it gets done by the end of the school year to make sure that whatever program we come up with for summer, we have all the data that we need, and we can prepare those teachers for filling in all those deficits that those students might have. Obviously, this program would help us greatly in preventing regression in our students. So we want to promote that, and we want to work with our students, our teachers, to help make sure that this summer program will be a successful one. We also, of course, had to figure out, or we still need to figure out, how we're going to identify kids that may need that extra assistance in the summer. How are we going to determine, the students that we're going to recommend for our summer school program? We've been doing a lot of meetings as well with our summer school, with our faculty members in regards to, what's been going on with the curriculum, like what's working in the curriculum and what's not, and where are we finding that we need more work with the students, and where do we think the students are going to be doing or excelling in the curriculum. We focus a lot on math and ELA. The conversations really have been primarily are directed towards, what from the curriculum maps are you making sure to address in your curriculum while you're teaching? What priority standards? And then what standards are you finding that you're teaching, but you may not be able to get to at the depth that we need to get them taught at? We have a great RTI leadership team that's met with, well, we've been meeting actually monthly almost, to talk about iReady and any other universal assessment that we can use to identify the gaps, collect the data, so we can give it to the next school year's teachers. We're in the process of developing a form that would hopefully document all important information for the teachers, so that when the student comes to the next school year, they have a document that shows the information about this child that will say, you know, what that student is strong in or what that student is weaker in. But we're continuously trying to prepare our teachers for, you know, what may lie ahead. So we know that, you know, September might be a rough beginning of our school year, but the key is to determine the data and collect the data now that will give them a holistic picture of these students next September, so that when they start their school year off, they have an idea of where their students are at that point, and they can create an action plan based on that. Will you go to the next slide, please, Alicia? Thank you. So as it was stated before, we're focusing on, or we have focused a lot of attention on our math and ELA curriculum maps. We continue to use those every day. That drives our instruction. That is something that we base all of our instructional decisions upon, or based from, I should say. Of course, we had to adjust based on COVID and our closures and everything else that was thrown at us this year. But the teachers have done a great job adjusting to what, you know, challenges they had that lie in front of them, and they adjusted appropriately with, of course, help from their support network around them, and of course leadership. For science and social studies, those are the two areas in which we'd like to focus more of our attention, hopefully in the coming year, or years, I'll say. Science might be the easier of the two curriculums because it is well liked by the teachers, and it's of course well liked by the students. Mystery science is what we've been using to support that shift to the next generation science standards. The students get into it because it's very involved and engaging for them, and the teachers find it something that the kids are really buying into. So it's something that we're going to continue to do and work more with. But what we want to start doing more of is talking about how we're aligned vertically and horizontally within our school system. For social studies, we're going to continue using our New York Social Studies framework, which is that idea of using that. We're working to align that the inquiry model, like in the investigative approach to talking about social studies and the content within social studies. We use things like scholastic news and our current events, you know, articles and so forth that we use in our classroom to support that. Our next step would be hopefully to look at science or social studies, preferably one of those, like say science, and start to think about how it is aligned across two different buildings and across the grade level horizontally, but then seeing where it lies vertically within our school district, K through 6 in the elementary grades. And of course, once we figure out what we want to do as far as focusing on one of those content areas, we want to create that action plan or some kind of timeline to create that curriculum map and review it and hopefully adopt it down the road. Okay, are there any questions for any three of us?
I'll just start, and I know I'm sure maybe some board members have a question, but Max and our elementary principals, are you recommending that we put a plan together this spring and summer to build those curriculum maps, revise them, and build them so that they're ready for September in social studies and or science?
Yes, I mean, I would think the best thing we could do is start off with science, because I think that's the one we have probably the most, we're most comfortable with. But social studies is definitely another area that I think we've been trying to get to, but it's been very difficult to focus our attention on that.
Very good. So last summer, through the leadership of our principals and our teacher leaders, the first time ever we have a comprehensive vertical and horizontally aligned mathematics curriculum throughout our entire district. And I can't be more proud of our principals and teachers who worked on this project over the summer. So Max, what I think I hear you say is that there would be more work done perhaps in social studies or science through late spring and early summer that we can at the very least have a draft document ready for finalization in September.
Correct. Yes.
Great. Good. Any of our board members have questions?
So my question is on common assessments. Do we currently have anything beyond the iReady? And then would that be part of the curriculum map going forward? For example, let's say a fifth grader in Youth did a unit on biomes. Would that same fifth grader at Kegabyne take a common assessment? Or, within each grade level, between both buildings?
We do. Oh, you want me to answer that, Dr. Graham?
Yes, go ahead.
We are working with Mrs. Ludit in regards to math to create common assessments, common formative assessments. I think it'd be a great idea to start thinking about in other content areas what common assessments we have as well. Within the units of study program, there are common assessments such as the writing prompts and the writing pieces. The math lends itself to common assessments because of the program. The science, I know that our teachers have worked to create common science assessments between both buildings because of the nature of the mystery science program is kind of like I'll say a unit-based type of program where they can create a summative assessment based on the mystery science topics. But I think that we can definitely have more time to work with creating more assessments and more benchmark assessments. I think that'd be a great idea.
And just one more thing, that iReady was math and ELA 3 times a year? You might have, I think you might have said that, yeah.
Yes, 3 times a year.
So I have a couple of questions. One's about the summer program. I know you said that you're looking at how to group students or how to structure summer school. Are you going to group them, for example, or identify students by need based on the common formative assessment performance? So will one teacher be working with the students that need more assistance in math, another teacher with ELA work in reading and or writing? So will they be grouped, or are they all taking math, reading, writing? I mean, I think it's just going to be focused on reading and writing, correct? So will they be, or will it also focus on math? Or just reading?
We're at the very beginning stages of it, so I'm not sure exactly what we're going to focus on. I know, of course, reading and writing, ELA and math would probably be the foundation. It depends on how much time each teacher will have with their kids, but I'm always open to doing more than that, of course. And how we group them, I'm not quite sure yet how we're going to do it because we're kind of starting from the ground up here.
Yeah, so I just had a thought, since it's a workshop, we're in the workshop model, and if anybody else has any thoughts, feel free to jump in. This is just my 2 cents. In that, if you're using these common formative assessments, you might have a child that's really strong in math. They're just a math whiz and they're very good at numbers, but linguistically, they are really struggling with reading. They're struggling learning to read, or they're struggling with sounding out words or writing incomplete sentences, whatever it may be with language. So it might be better just to have that child in summer school focus on where the need is, and that, because it's such a short time. And I'm sure there's been some students that have lost ground with the pandemic. So I would just think that if we could use any common formative assessments or benchmarks that students are taking in spring and really target their need. So instead of going to summer school for all subject areas that are offered, they attend summer school for the subject area where the gap is. Where are they falling short? What ground do they need to make up because of the pandemic? And where can we best meet their needs where they're at and move them forward? Because they, like I said, they could be a math whiz, but really struggling with the reading and writing. So, or vice versa. They could be great with language, but numbers really give them a hard time and they're not good at math. So, or they don't have the self-efficacy with math. They don't see themselves as a math person and being efficient in math. So I would love to see that kind of be more targeted toward the need based on the subject area and the common formative assessments that they're struggling with, and using that data. That's just my own 2 cents there. So, I mean, I have just a few other things. Like Ms. Ludit, what happens when students fall short and they don't meet the benchmark? And I did hear Felicia, Mrs. Pilati did mention the interventions. So have you thought about when and where the interventions will take place, how they'll be delivered? Do you need any support with that from us? Like, is there anything that's not available now that you would need to make those interventions happen? And how do you know, how will you know then once they've learned it? Like, once the interventions have been put in place, then how do you know that those have been effective? And is there any support that you feel is lacking to be able to make those interventions happen after Ms. Ludit helps you with the common formative assessments? Because I know math has been one area that the board really, has mentioned has been an issue in terms of test scores and things like that. And we're making a lot of progress with, aligning the curriculum between Hughes and Kaegebein. But what about these interventions? Like, when will they take place? Where will they take place? And, how best should they be delivered? I don't know if you've given any thought to that, or that's something that's still in the works. But if you needed any support for that, I'd be interested to hear how we could help with that from a board perspective.
Very good. So for Felicia or Max or Denise, with respect to academic intervention services in your school now for children who may need extra help in math, how is that going?
Good. I mean, we spend our IST team, our instructional support teams, and our student discussion days discussing students that have these deficits in both reading and math. That is the jump off point for us to figure out who we need to address and when. So those discussions are extremely critical for us determining how to respond to these students who need the assistance throughout the school year. So that's been going very well for us as far as my school's gone.
Go ahead, Felicia.
Oh, I was just going to say, I would agree. We have our IST discussions and we set the goals for the students to see if they can meet them. And it is very critical for them. And, if they're not meeting those goals, we're changing up to different strategies as to how the students can, or recommending them possibly to just receive like RTI math services.
And the process would be the same. I'm sorry.
Are those delivered during the school day, or how's the response to intervention delivered then? Is it during the school day, and then are they missing? What's happening when they're in response to intervention? Are they missing other academics, or is it? I'm just trying to get an idea of how that works.
The schedule for our schools, at least I can speak for Hughes and maybe for Kaegebein. I'm not quite sure about Sidway, but I know Ms. Stummer can speak to that. But we set up our schedule. We've created a schedule from day one to ensure that the student is in the classroom for their content areas. So they're in the classroom for math, ELA, science, and social studies. When they leave the classroom, it's during a time where I'll say content area or the standard content is not being taught initially to students. So they're not missing initial instruction. What they may miss is maybe like word work or something like that, but that is something that they do within the RTI supports. So it's not they're not missing out on something. They're actually getting a more enhanced instruction with a half hour with that RTI provider.
Thank you.
And at Sidway, the process would be the same. We have the IST process. We have our 4 reading recovery teachers, but unfortunately we don't have the math RTI any longer, just due to some budgetary things. Pre-COVID, one of my reading teachers, or 2 perhaps, would pick up some of the children in 1st grade only that were struggling with math. This year, we're just not able to do it based on the number of children that need some reading intervention to try to keep those gaps as small as possible this year. And in addition, our reading teachers pick up some of the virtual support sessions for those children that are still 100% virtual. So unfortunately this year in math, we do not have that support at Sidway. We're keeping data on the kids that we are struggling, that we are worried about. But at this point in time, we cannot give that intervention just due to staffing. hopefully next year when we're back to, non-COVID times, if there, for as long as there is not that extra reading, or excuse me, extra math teacher, one of the reading teachers would, try to fit in some math support into her schedule.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for the elementary? I had one more thing about the Lucy Calkins training. Is there any further training in the works for the teachers? That I know some were trained in writing but not reading, some were trained in other components but not others. Is there any plans to have more training on that so that everyone's trained in all the components?
I can speak to that a little bit, and then Max and Felicia, you may want to jump in. So at the beginning of the year, we talked about identifying some of our key teacher leaders who've been down to Columbia University, who've received a tremendous amount of professional development. And we want to encourage them to be able to provide professional development turnkey trainers right within the district. So I know that that's one of our goals, and I don't know, if it has come to perfect fruition yet, but it's certainly something we're striving to accomplish.
Yeah, we've been working with two. Well, I know there's one at Heathrow, and I know there's one at Kegabyne as well. That'd be willing to help the other teachers make that transition into the units of study, especially in the reading area. We didn't have the ability this year yet to shift that way because of all the back and forth with COVID and everything else. But we focus a lot of our attention on the math. But we are definitely looking into refocusing on the units of study approach again.
And I just want to add to that, Carolyn Gallagher is one of those lead teachers in our building for 4th grade. So she's actually working with the 4th grade team, and they are going to be implementing one of the units of study in the near future. Reading.
Great, thank you. And then I noticed in your presentation, you talked a little bit about summer curriculum maps, common formative assessments. Do you have any specific plans for summer curriculum work at this time? Is it going to focus around the science and social studies, or is it focusing on building those common formative assessments, or what do you think the summer curriculum focus will be, or projects that we'll see coming up?
I think the focus will be on the actual curriculum maps of science and social studies. And I only say that because Kim Ludit has been a godsend. She's been really the one that's been driving and helping us keep that CFA process alive within the school year. Felicia and I actually just today had a conversation with Kim about preparing for next year and setting a plan in place for next year. So we are actually already talking about dates and what we want to do with each of these times with the teachers. So that's already set to go for next school year. So I think this summer will be more about thinking about the curriculum maps, science to start off with probably, and then moving into social studies.
Thanks. I know with Mystery Science, I love Doug, and I use Mystery Science in my class. His videos are really engaging, and I agree, I concur with everything was said about the Mystery Science really is engaging, and the kids do love it. One of the things I noticed, because I have kids that are at the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade levels, is when you get to 4 and 5 with Mystery Science, grades 4 and 5, the curriculum just seems to me to be, it's great for my students. I have a self-contained special ed classroom, but I'm thinking for gen ed, students out in the mainstream that are getting ready for middle school science, I'm wondering if you feel it all, and feel free to jump in here, anybody, if you'd like. I just wondered if you found that the curriculum is a little watered down, may not prepare kids for the middle school science, or will you supplement that at all with anything additional, or if you find that it's going to be sufficient for making sure the kids and ensuring the kids are prepared to meet the demands of higher level science?
I think the program will require some enhancements. But the thing is that it's great about Mystery Science is, as you know, is that it's engaging, and students are really getting into the engagement piece. But it's more about the the inquiry afterwards, the investigation that we really want to dive into more with the kids. And that's something where I think teachers can really use it as a springboard to do something more to enhance that lesson or that scientific topic.
And Max, I'll just add that the mystery science resources are just that, they're resources. And when we build the curriculum map, we'll use those resources, but we also want to add other resources like you suggested to enhance and look for a stronger level of rigor, right, as appropriate. So the whole idea of working toward the curriculum maps this summer, particularly as Max said in science, will give teachers a chance to talk about the fact that mystery science is not our curriculum, right? It is simply a resource, and what other resources do we need to fold in to make it the best curriculum that we can. We talk about that a lot with Lucy Calkins' work and with the Envisions math resource. You know, it's that these are resources. You know, we just have to make sure they're aligned to the next gen standards. We have to make sure that the assessments are in line, that it's triangulated, and if we're seeing that there's a lack of rigor or some of our kids are just coasting through it, we need to add that layer of rigor.
The new fifth grade test was pushed another, what's the first administration of that? We know that the year for the new fifth grade test for science?
Yeah.
2 years from, actually, it's not next year, it's the year after that.
The year after.
Okay, thank you, Max.
So our current third.
And my last question is the pandemic, has it had any, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Max.
I was just saying next year is the assessment's going to be put on hold for 1 year next year. And then after that, fifth grade will be taking it.
Great. Has the pandemic impacted the progress with the strategic plan? So in terms of the 5-year strategic plan, where are we? How far have we, how much have we accomplished within that 5-year strategic plan? Are we still on track? Are we a little behind? What would you, do we have things that we're going to have to make up ground on? And if we are, how will we do that?
I'll jump in after you.
Okay, well, I was going to say, I think we definitely have, COVID put a stop to many things and a halt or slowed us down in a couple of ways. So I would think that we're going to be behind a little bit, but I don't think it's nothing we can't catch up with.
I would just like to add that the Max and Mary Haggerty together worked on math assessments over a year ago, right, Max?
Yep.
And that was really exciting, an exciting time to see the teachers and the administrators working together for common assessments that our children would take. We were very excited about that, and we were also very excited about instituting the iReady assessments, but also trying to balance the hybrid model with the kids who are home. That definitely has set us back, Ashley. There's no doubt about it. So when you look at the goals in the strategic plan that were supposed to be aligned to percent increases of achievement, very challenging. We don't have state assessments to look at because they were canceled last year. We may only be giving one session of the assessments this year if that's what the state chooses to do. So those assessment checkpoints have been difficult to utilize and compared to the goals of the strategic plan. But with that said, I know we say it a lot, but the iReady assessments, we're very, very excited about them. They're very in-depth. We think they're better than the STAR assessments. And not only are they going to allow us to track growth at the 3 different intervals where they take the assessments, but the math that we purchased for this year has an intervention piece built in. The ELA doesn't, but we're going to add that in next year's purchase, enhancing the iReady. So we'll have that. So in theory, to your point earlier, if we offer 100 seats at Kegavine for summer, and there's a kid, at 110 or 120 wait list, we should be able to provide iReady, ELA, and math right at home for children who don't make the cut to come in person to school. So we're very excited about that too.
That's great. Well, I just want to commend the elementary principals. Especially, I know you've done a lot of work, Felicia and Max, you've done a great deal of work pulling together the curriculum with ELA and math between Kagan and Hughes. And it's been a goal of the board to ensure that regardless of what elementary school you're at, you will come to the middle school with the same skills. And I know that we put that out there as a goal. We wanted to ensure that the curriculum and the common formative assessments, are fairly similar. So as I said, when the kids all come to the middle school, they are at the same, they've had the same instruction and they've experienced the same field trips, everything from the field trips to the types of genre books they're reading to the essays that they've completed and the math work that they've done, so that they're all ready to be successful in 6th grade. And I commend you for all of that hard work, because it is difficult to bring a group of people in one building on the same page, let alone in 2 buildings. And to have these common formative assessments is wonderful, because it gives you an idea of, as you mentioned in your presentation, the academic gaps and where students need the work. And the teachers will have the data to be able to address those needs. And I think that is very significant in moving this district forward in terms of, and it's more than a test score, right? We're moving them forward. Yes, they'll be better test takers and test scores will improve, but that also means that they'll be more prepared for whatever they do when they leave the Grand Island Central School District. So thank you very much for all of that hard work. I appreciate it. Anyone have any other questions for the elementary principals or the strategic plan in general? Great. All right, so that brings us to the committee as a whole and items or information for the roundtable, beginning with Jay.
Not much. Just want to wish good luck to all the athletes for our next shortened season coming up, and good luck in your tryouts.
Nicole.
I have nothing, thank you.
Jude. Okay, Sue.
I don't have anything.
Joy. Glenn.
I got nothing.
Robin.
I have nothing.
Okay, Cheryl.
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, Ruby.
I'm good. Oh, budget is, I'm sorry. Woo! I'm done for today. Our next meeting is the next budget input. Just as a reminder, we are hoping to have a update from the governor on April 1st, which is right before Easter break. So I'm sure Dr. Graham and I will be working very close during that time. And also as just an ad for some of the discussion surrounding around what we are going to do to help our students as they are transitioning back as slowly or as quickly as it happens. There is components of the federal allocation that does go to making sure we're closing the gap for those students, whether that's summer, after school. So there is a set actual percentage that they will make be allocated towards that. But as I know more, I'll share that. So you may even hear about that at the presentation meeting. That's it.
All right, thank you. I said Cheryl, so that brings us to Dr. Graham.
Ashley, do you want to go first, and then I have two things.
I just have the typical dates, so.
So with the board's permission, there are just 2 items I want to share with you tonight. The first is this document that you have at your seat. It's the results of the parent survey that we did last week. There were 1,251 parents who responded to the survey. 1,146 parents indicated that if the physical distancing requirements were changed by the New York State Department of Health to allow for 3 feet of physical distancing in the classrooms, 1,146 of the parents indicated that they would have their children come full and in person. 105 of those parents indicated that they would stay or change to 100% remote instruction. So 91.5% said that they would go to full in person, and 8.5% said that they would either choose to go remote or stay in remote. So in this packet, you can take it home. Obviously it's confidential, but you'll see in here all of the comments also that were shared with us. They're here for your review. Any questions about the survey? So thank you. And if I could, I'm just going to share my screen just to give the board some information on the latest guidance that was developed and shared by the CDC on Friday. All right. So I'm not going to go through all the slides that I prepared tonight. You've seen them over and over again with respect to the changes of positive COVID-19 on Grand Island and so forth. So I'm going to skip over those slides. But today I'm just going to show you this chart that comes from the CDC. It's indicative of the community transmission rates in counties across the United States. So what the CDC is saying is that if your community has the highest transmission rate based on their formula at the elementary level, physical distancing of at least 3 feet of distance between students could still occur even at the highest transmission level. Also, for middle and high school students, at the highest community transmission level, it would have to remain at 6 feet of physical distancing unless children were cohorted. And what that means is that if a group of children all went to the same ELA teacher for first period, and then that same group all went to the math teacher second period, and that same group the science teacher. That's really not how our middle school or high school is set up. So based on the CDC guidance, right, 3 feet of physical distancing would be okay for elementary students, even at the highest transmission level. Does anybody have any questions just about that basic information from CDC? So this slide just illustrates, if you go to the CDC website, they have a tool where you can filter it to choose the county that you're interested in learning about. So I did that, and that's where it shows that Erie County is still considered red and in the highest level of community transmission. And that's just another screenshot of the website, so you can kind of see not only New York State, but Ohio and Pennsylvania too. So this is very important information. And what they're looking at is the information they're looking at is based on a 7-day rolling average of cases based on 100,000 persons over the past 7 days. So this chart is not really crystal clear to see, but this chart shows the 7-day average of Erie County, looking at the last few days of March 18th, and that there were 218 cases per 100,000 individuals who were tested positive. And that's why the CDC is saying that the community transmission is still high in Erie County. So the CDC guidance, as I shared with you, is 3 feet between students and classrooms, regardless of the community transmission rate. But for middle and high school, if they were designated in our county as blue or yellow, then it could be 3 feet between students. Also in orange, it could be 3 feet. Okay. It could, oh, something's going on there. So it could be in orange, 3 feet of distance between students and classrooms if they were, with cohorts recommended. And then in the red zone, which Erie County is in, 6 feet unless the cohorts are used, in which then you could do 3 feet. So I just also want to make sure that the board knows that not only is the CDC saying that Erie County has the highest level, the red level of community transmission, but Dr. Burstein was quoted in the paper saying that using the CDC metrics for low, moderate, or substantial or high transmission, Erie County currently falls within the high transmission category. And then she added, if New York State decides that schools can implement the updated CDC recommendations, middle schools and high schools in the area of high transmission that cannot cohort should still follow 6 feet. So she's just repeating what the CDC is indicating. The most important piece of information for our board and our community is that the next step is the New York State Department of Health. So the New York State Department of Health has to review the CDC guidance and then present its own guidance for school districts across the state. Today in a press conference, we did hear a representative from the New York State Department of Health indicate that they are aware of the CDC changes. They are looking at it, and they expressed that in an expeditious way that they would weigh in and provide its own guidance soon. So that's just important information. I am going to just jump back to this slide. The CDC is saying that barriers, the guidance actually removes the recommendation for the use of barriers. So their recommendations would remove the idea of barriers, but follow the 3 feet and then the community transmission to understand what's best for kids. Also, the CDC is saying that schools should go back to testing. So it'll be interesting to see what the New York State Department of Health says about testing students and staff. This information is indicating the guidance recommends testing students once a week if the county is at the high level of a transmission zone other than blue. And they're saying random sampling of 10%. And we do know that that would be challenging, right? I also just want to say as much as I was happy to see that the CDC is following the data, following the science, and now recommending 3 feet, with additional caveats. It's important, for us to just say, when will the Department of Health produce its own guidance? And with respect to that, what will transportation look like if 100% of our students are coming back to elementary schools? Will children be allowed to sit next to each other on the bus? Will it have to be, one child per seat? And particularly, what will the new guidance that's interpreted by the New York State Department of Health say about our cafeterias? So very, very important information for us to be able to consume and review and analyze in the future when the Department of Health changes its guidance. Any questions about those slides or anything for me? So thank you for letting me show you those slides. Ashley, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, just a couple of dates. April 2nd to the 11th is spring recess. Our next Board of Education meeting and our third budget input session will be April 12th. And with that, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn the regular board meeting at 8:30 p.m., please. And just second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any objections? Any abstentions? Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Mark, you're okay if I exit out?
Yes.
Okay.
One.